So this video is just a quick primer on entry and exit requirements for different countries if you are super new to traveling abroad. Now, this is for Americans, because I'm American, have American passport. But you can always just go online and look up the requirements for your country if you're watching this, and not from the States. But Canada is similar to the States. Um, The UK, Australia are also pretty strong passports, and I wanna talk about that for a minute. Strong passports. Those of us who are from the States and have American passports, like, we have one of the strongest passports in the world, and I do think it's an incredible shame that not more of us take advantage of using it and traveling because travel just it opens your eyes in an incredible way. Like, I cannot believe how much I've changed in the last year due to travel, just learning all sorts of things, from big things to small things, that I've gotten by traveling, and it's easy. Like, for Americans, many of the time most of the time, we just have to book a flight somewhere and we can go. And I think it's been a while since I looked this up. Don't quote me on this. Go check it out for yourself. I had heard a stat at one point that said that only about 50% or less than 50% of Americans have a passport. And I really think that's a shame. I really think that's a shame. But if you're watching this, you probably do have a passport or you're interested in getting your passport. So I won't lecture you on that. But we have a very strong passport. What that means is that we don't have to complete a lot of paperwork to go to other countries, like other people have to do to come to ours. I'll never forget, I was in Houston. Just I went to Houston for a weekend once just to check it out. There was a cheap ticket. It was like $60 round trip, and I was living in Florida at the time. I was like, I'm just gonna go check out Houston. But I stayed in this hostel and I met a guy from Thailand, and oof, the paperwork, the hoops that he had had to jump through just to come and visit our country. You know, the States is such a beautiful, big country. It's got so many different um, landscapes to it, and so many people want to come and visit, but they're not treated very well, in my opinion. And they have to do so much. It's pretty ridiculous. But for us taking advantage of our passport to travel abroad, most places in the world, not most, many of the places in the world you can get to with a US passport, that's it. You just have to book the flight. There's no visa requirements, no paperwork requirements. Sometimes you do have to have a flight booked out. So if you're going there, they will expect to see that you have transportation out of the country again. And this is something that can easily be found by looking up the requirements online. There are some countries that require us to have a visa before going. In all of my travels, I needed a visa in Egypt, but that was a visa on arrival and it was only about 25 bucks. Um, I can't, I don't think I've needed a visa anywhere else. Probably should have thought about that before making this video. Um, but so yeah, it's very easy. If you're concerned about entry requirements in a country, you can just go and do some quick Googling, find out the requirements, find out what you need, find out, here's the important part, how long you're allowed to stay. For most, for a lot of places, it's 90 days. But you do want to respect that and you want to get out when you're supposed to get out. I have met people who bend the rules a lot with doing some shady stuff that I'm just not interested in, frankly, because I'm grateful for the privilege of visiting a country. The last thing I want to do is break their rules and get banned from coming back. Another reason that's so important to me is that I now have friends all over the world, and I would hate for a country to shut their doors to me and say, you're not allowed to come back in, meaning I never get to see my friends again, or they have to come, visit me somewhere. So I try to be very respectful of other countries' laws and rules and regulations, even if I don't always agree with them. Then there are places that we can stay for longer than 90 days. The UK, and it's up to 6 months. And as of last time I checked, and I believe there's some Caribbean islands as well, and more places. So it's just a matter of figuring out where you want to go, and then looking at the requirements for that country. Now, Europe is a special case. Europe has something called the Schengen zone, which has 26 or 27 countries in it, although whatever time you're watching this, it might have changed. But basically, this zone functions quite a bit differently than the rest of the world. So let's say I'm in Ecuador right now recording. I have, the normal is 90 days in Ecuador, right? You have one country and you have the limit of time that you're allowed to be in there. But the Schengen zone in Europe is like a neighborhood, for lack of a better term, and you're only allowed to stay in that entire neighborhood for 90 days. And this is very important. So you could come in and do 30 days in Spain, 30 days in Germany, 30 days in France, and then you have to leave the entire neighborhood, not just those countries. You have to get out completely, and you're not allowed back in for 90 days. But it's a little bit more complicated than that. Last time I check this, always check. But you can stay in there for 90 days in a 180-day period. So you don't have to go for 90 days solid. You could go for 10 days and then go somewhere else outside of the entire zone, and then you could come back in for 20 days, right? So it's coming and going, but you do need to track that and make sure that you're not um, overstaying. Because the last thing you'd want to do is get banned from the Schengen zone, which means that out of all the countries in the world, there's like 26, 27, 28, however many there are now, that you cannot visit, that you're not allowed to be in. So, with that being said, you can, of course, get extended stay visas in certain places if you want to go through the route of doing extra paperwork and things like that. Some countries are starting to offer digital nomad visas where if you can show an income of a certain amount and show that you're not taking someone else's, someone in that country's job, then you are able to stay for up to a year. Um, Even if you don't want to go the route of paperwork, by moving every 3 months, you can still kind of stay in a similar zone. Like, you could be in Europe and then go to the UK and then go to a European country that's outside the EU. It's just it's I think the easiest way to think about it is to split the year into quarters, right? You need to be in 4 different countries throughout the year, or 4 different blocks, 90 days, 90 days, 90 days, 90 days. If you're in a place where you can extend it up to 6 months, great, that cuts down and now you only have 3 to figure out. You could go back and forth in some instances. You could be 90 days here, 90 days there, 90 days here, 90 days there. So people are putting together schedules that work for them, and you can do the same. Some people like to never go back to the same place twice. Some people, I keep coming back to Ecuador. Um, and disclaimer, I do have a visa here. I got it during the pandemic when things were insane. But Ecuador is the only country that I've gotten a visa for, and it's my base when I just kinda come back and chill for a little while. But, for the most part, it is not as hard as you might think. A quick Google will tell you, anything about the most up-to-date country requirements. Another thing I wanna mention is border runs, which people ask me about a lot, with the concept being of, can't you just stay in a country for 90 days and then hop out for a couple of days and then come back and start your new 90 days all over again? Um, it works in some countries. I have personally never used it. I don't have the ability to withstand stress enough to, like, leave all of my stuff in a place and leave and hope that I'm allowed back in. Can't compute, can't compute. Not doing that. So I move on. I do know quite a few people who do it. It does depend on where you're at in the world. Some countries are a lot stricter on that, and I will say that it used to some of the stories that I've heard are from people who or sometimes I get asked this is from people who have heard that from years ago, but the reality of today doesn't hold up to, 15 years ago when that was a bit more prevalent. And it's definitely not something that I feel like works in the stricter countries. So for me, I don't bother with border runs. To each their own. I respect people that can do it. I wish I had the stomach for it. I don't. When it's time for me to go, I pack up all my stuff. I move on. I also try not to play too close to the line with the dates if I'm allowed. 90 days in a country, there's no harm in leaving at 87, 88, just to make sure that I don't overstay. And the thing with Europe as well is because or sorry, the thing with the Schengen zone as well, because there's so many countries crammed into um, that 90-day limit, I try not to max out my 90 days just in case. And what I mean by just in case is I would hate to have a friend invite me on a trip and I'm like, sorry, I can't go. I'm not allowed in. So I prefer to stay like 75 days ish, just in case somebody's like, hey, do you want to meet up in Paris or do you want to come to Portugal or whatever? I have a little bit of flexibility still to be able to hop back in and go visit friends without being like, nope, sorry, I'm maxed out. I have to wait 90 days. Um, yeah, super simple. If you have questions about the entry requirements, anything said in this video, by all means, just leave a comment below. I'm looking forward to answering more questions about this and going more in depth in other videos as well. Like I said, just a quick primer. Hopefully, I haven't gone over my own time limit that I set for myself. See you next time.